Hey guys, Wolf Wengler. I'm watching the car on my YouTube page, and as it approaches, the right fender's a little bit low, and as the car is shifted, it lurches a little bit to the right. This isn't right. I know why it's happening, and I'm going to fix it. See there? So here's the shock absorber that I'm using. It's a basic Monroe gas charged passenger car shock absorber, fairly soft, 32022. It's the same as the shock that came with the Art Morrison coilover package that I bought when I built this car back in 1995. I don't get a lot of life out of these shocks. That back one on the right side takes a beating. So yeah, every couple of years I stick a new one of these in. They're like 20 bucks. So that was an older clip that I made probably 10 months ago when I spent another 20 bucks and stuck another shock in the back. The bayonet of the shock went up into this bracket that was inside the trunk, and then the top of the spring sat in this cup. This is the underside of the hole where the top of the shock mounts. This is the top of the spring mount. And then the bottom of the spring mount, you can see here, I'm up pretty high on the adjuster. And if you look carefully at the spring, here's my fix on the bottom. I've offset the mount slightly to the inboard side to get that shock lined up straight. So I threaded a piece of 3/4 inch rod through the upper shock mount so I could get a look at the angle that it was off, and you can see the mounting spot versus where the rod comes down. It's a couple of degrees. The two metal straps on both sides of the upper shock mount are what hold that spring cup in place. So I figured if I could cut that left strap and angle the top of the spring cup down, I'd get the alignment straightened out for the shock absorber. So that's what I'm going to do. So I jacked the car up to get the weight off of that spring, and with a carbide blade and my Sawzall, I sliced through that left-hand mount. I've got it wedged as far as I want it now, and I've made a little piece that will insert in here. I could have tried to weld this, but just can't get the right angle on it to get far enough in the back. I can only weld one side. The force here is only compression. As the spring goes up, as it comes up from this way, it's only compressing this rod here. If this car was lifted off the ground, the spring would fall by gravity, but the spring is just in a cup on this plate here. It's a round cup. This was an Art Morrison piece from years ago that was just a plate with a cup on the underside that seated the spring on it, and then there were two straps that you would just attach up to whatever cross member you had, and that's what this is. But I needed to change this angle on this side. Whether this was my measurement wrong when I built the car, or whether something moved, I don't know. It wasn't terrible, but like I said, maybe I don't have enough to do. So I've cut this, and I've fabricated up a couple of pieces of 3/16 metal into an H. Since the force is compression here only, there's nothing pulling down on it, I need to have a solid piece in between this joint, and then I've got a piece on this side and a piece on this side that keep that from moving. And if everything goes right, I should be able to hammer that little piece right in there. So I'll show you where we're at here. I just painted it up, and it's just this little H and everything, but the force is on the bridge, and then the sides of the H just keep those straps from moving either way. I don't have enough hands. Hang on. I needed to adjust the back side of it because I don't have quite as much clearance on the top. But this little piece, so here's the connection and that gives me the increased height that I need in the crossbar here, that thickness here, and then the sides just keep the ends of the strap from moving either way. So I'm going to check this a little bit more and then hammer it in. Looks good to me, but I need both hands and I need to move around a little bit here. Yeah, I can't do this left-handed. Here's the result. You can see how nicely it fits together. It needs a little cleanup, some paint, caulk it up with some silicone, and we're done. Okay, so the car is back on the ground, and if I walk around and I measure the height at the fender well on each side, 25.5, 25 3/4, which is fine because with my weight in the car, that'll level it out nicely. So both about 25 1/4. So this is where the ride height is. I've been running the car on a 26-inch tire, and these are almost 27. So that changes a little bit, and that was part of why I got working with readjusting that spring cup and the way it all went together, because I had it kind of balanced out from one side to the other, and it worked fine on the flat roads in Florida. But now this is going to be a different situation entirely. Instead of being on drag radials on smooth roads, I'm on basically street tires on gravel roads and who knows whatever else. So here's a really handy little piece of reference material. It's got all the different tire sizes, dimensions, diameters. Make a screenshot of this and keep it. And then here's a calculation I keep from my car that shows rear axle ratio, tire size in relation to miles an hour and RPM. You should have something like this calculated for your car so you know where you're driving in your power band. Now if you look at the coilovers on the left side and the right side, they're about equally set. So we'll let the silicone dry, and tomorrow take it out for a ride. I kind of, in the meantime, pulled out the 323 center section that I've got, and I got a pretty good idea that I'm going to wind up putting this 323 in the car. It's got a 294 in it now. Again, a little taller tire makes you a higher gear ratio. I'm giving up probably 80 horsepower here at altitude. So going up from a 294 to a 323 will make it a little bit better. But more importantly, it'll put me in the right RPM range for cruising these back roads. But I got to find the pinion yoke that goes on here, and then I can put this in. So we'll see. That's where we're at. Notice Bud lights are gone.